Today on the Learning Experience Ops Show, I am joined by Jonathan Thayer. John is the Chief Data and AI Architect at K2 United, where he has spent more than 2 decades evolving from product engineering to innovation to analytics and now AI architecture. Really perfect guest for the topic of this show, which is really to dig into operations and the way things that are working in learning operations have worked, do work, may work in the future. John has a master's degree in software engineering from UT Austin and also a BA in psychobiology from Wheaton College. I do not normally mention where people have been to school, but I'm mentioning it because John and I knew each other at Wheaton. You arrived in my sophomore year, I think, and we lived on the same floor. And then we graduated the same year because I took some time off in the middle there. So we've known each other for a long time. We had no plans to go into the same kind of work or same field. And I think when we reconnected years after graduating and talked about what we did, we're like, oh, that's kind of weird. We're doing similar stuff. So it's been a real pleasure to talk as our lines of work have just kind of evolved in parallel in some ways over the years. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you.
I want to start with a lightning round. This is a new thing I'm trying out, a bit of a beta. And the idea here is I'm going to ask you a question and just give a quick sentence or two on it. And if we need to, we'll come back to your answer and kind of unpack it later. But just kind of want this to be a little bit more rapid fire. Yeah, are you game?
Let's do it.
All right, good. What is a quick elevator pitch about what you do?
Would you like to know my company or me? Sorry to ask a question back. Both. So the company, we started off as an e-learning company, moved into cybersecurity and hosting for federal space just because it kind of made sense. But really, at our heart, we were an e-learning company.
Mm-hmm. And you, what is your role?
I'm right now the Chief Data and AI Architect. I'm here to give my intro. I'm leading the AI part of our digital transformation, business transformation in the organization, which is a new initiative.
New for all of us. Okay, next question. What do you love most about your work?
It's all new. It is all really new and fast changing. I thrive in that kind of environment. So that's really what I love. And
kind of the opposite of that coin is this next question, which is, what are you most anxious about for the future? And I guess for the sake of the podcast, we will limit this to work-related topics.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Really, our company's really people-focused, both our employees and the people we serve. And I'm worried about both. I think AI is really changing things, and it could have a great positive or negative impact. There's just a lot of uncertainty in that whole area.
Okay, next question. What is something that you do in your process at work that you think you'll have to change eventually because of AI, but don't want to change?
Probably not for me personally, but just work as a whole, the creative elements. There's just a lot of human input. We do a lot of creative things, and AI is going to draw off. It's going to draw off a lot of that work.
I think my kids would have the same answer. They're constantly talking to me about AI theft of art in particular. Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the next one. 2 left. What's the skill you're trying to pick up right now?
Right now, my big focus is AI application, the lifecycle development. Mm-hmm. It's just a whole, not entirely different, but it is a very different way of developing software systems, applications.
And maybe back to Wheaton, but perhaps further back or more recently, what was your favorite subject in school, and does it still influence you?
I'm not sure if Wheaton applies in this case, just because, again, going from psychology, for my master's degree, I'll lean back on the data science work. I mean, I've been doing that for the past few years, and AI is a big part of that now. It's always fascinated me.
It's great. All right. So I I am curious, since you've been in your role for how long, or at this company, how long have you been at K2 United?
Uh, 24 years.
24 years. So sometimes the way that I frame this question is, what ignited your passion in this work? And but you have been in this one place for a long time,
Yeah.
and I'm curious, sometimes an early job like that can be, it was just the job that was available, but I'm wondering if you was there a reason that you sought out this area, just kind of generally, like e-learning? You said it started out as an e-learning company. Was there a reason that you chose this field to work in?
Um, Honestly, no. It was, I actually had been working in biotech and I got
Yeah.
laid off and really
Huh.
needed a job.
Huh?
And this happened to be the company. And, it was, I interviewed, got the job, and they just happened to be doing e-learning. And I was like, all right, let's go with it. I was more interested in, at the time, it was web application development, early 2000s, right? That's what every company was trying to do. They just happened to be building a learning management system and training to go with it.
Everybody comes into this industry through a totally different door. It's quite interesting. I mean, but it wasn't just a job for right now, because you've been there for 24 years. So
Right.
what is it that has kept you there? What's been so captivating about the work?
Uh, Really two things. Personally, like I mentioned before, I like change, which
Hmm.
seems to contradict the fact that I've been with the same company for so long. But we started with only a few people, and we had to do a lot of different things and quickly. And my role changed, and what we did just to survive as a company changed. So it's always kept my interest. And then on the more social side, the owner of the company, in particular, has always set sort of a cultural focus on people. So, treating employees well as, uh, not just having a business to make money, but providing a positive social impact. And, you combine all of those things together, and it's a good mix for me, which has kept me with them as long as I have been.
And as I mentioned just at the top, you've done a lot of different things there. Product engineering, innovation, analytics, AI architecture were the things that I've mentioned. I'm really curious about, just across, you've just mentioned you had to wear a lot of different hats. It was a small company. It's grown a little bit. You've changed roles inside the organization. You've just recently changed roles into this one that's really focusing in on AI architecture and innovation internally. But I'm really curious, just like across the arc of your time uh, at K2 United, and I guess any job, what are ways, just to, what are the mindsets that have endured across those in terms of doing your work, or processes that you have, you know, reliably deployed across the different kinds of work that you've done, um, or any tools that you've used just over the arc of your career.
Yeah, tools are tough because it's such a long span. We've gone
Hmm.
from web application development on its own has radically changed from what it was even 10 years ago. As far as just mindset, that's maybe a little easier, at least with a size company that we are, having that entrepreneurial mindset, being willing to adapt, change, learn. The challenge, of course, is, you mentioned on the other side, what, process and things like that.
Hmm.
Balancing that is a real challenge because as you grow, you've got to add some of those things, but that slows you down. And trying to figure out what that good mix is. I think if I were going to say one thing, maybe I don't know if you call it a process, more of a philosophy, just adopting Agile has
Mm.
been something that's really helped us. And not enforcing it from we all do Agile the same way, But most of our teams now across different groups in the company are on Agile, and everybody has their own flavor, and they make it work for them. So I think just from a process, a work philosophy, it works well, at least at the size that we're at.
As so now you're in this position to really think about AI for your organization. Maybe we can focus on Agile. Have you found that what you've needed to do to run projects in an Agile way has been challenged by or is challenged by um, new technologies that are rolling out, like, I don't know, every day, pretty much now? Um,
Yeah, yeah. And maybe I shouldn't say we're at the start of this process.
hmm
So I'm more looking at what the potential problems are versus stuff we've run into. But one of the big changes that I see and how we do projects is going to be, and I'll borrow this term from, actually, it was our HR manager who, introduced me the term of citizen developers.
mm
And that's kind of different in that now you don't have to have somebody who's I'm a programmer, I'm going to build something. Anybody in the company can do that with AI. So how do you then let people loose to do those things, but then roll their work that might need to be taken to the next level into, okay, let's turn this into an automated AI tool, or let's integrate it with a chain of agents, or integrate it into a larger AI system. Whereas before you kind of had the requirements people and they could pass things off. You get product design and then you get the builders. Now it's
hmm
a big blend.
hmm
And I think that's going to be a challenge because even from an agile standpoint, the people doing the work are going to be different. Um, and how do you both encourage that and also keep some level of governance over it to keep things from just being chaos?
Uh-huh. Yep, I see what you're saying. And so it sounds like I think what I'm hearing there are sort of a couple challenges. One is that you have individuals innovating, which is great on the one hand, because you want people doing more in their jobs. But on the other hand, there is a need organizationally to systematize those things to some extent. And what is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
So how are there things that you're trying that are capturing those good successful practices as individuals are inventing them?
Mhm. Um, Not yet. This is where we're in that strategy and planning phase. The first thing that we actually did was, we put out a company survey, and we got
Yeah.
about half of the company responding.
Yeah.
And the questions, it was a very short survey. The goal was to really find out what's the feeling about AI, so we can find those early adopters, and then from there we're hoping to pick these early adopters, these champions, and start using them to help other people, and then also from there start collecting and generating these ideas, and we can decide where those dividing lines are between, you just run with this on your own and we're not going to get in your way, to, hey, now we actually need to, let's put this into some kind of project process. And those thresholds, I think, are going to be where we work on governance. And it's going to be, hey, because of the type of data you're accessing, hey, you want to integrate with our financial system. Well, we probably want to govern that. Or you're going to be working with HR data. Well, we want to govern that. Or you get to the point where you have an AI agent that might be taking actions. Well, then, okay, now we probably want to govern that, because we don't want things to get too out of control. So we're kind of at the point where we're trying to figure out what those lines are, because we do want to track things, and we want to help people out, and help provide the people and technology infrastructure. But we don't have that in place yet. So that's really our big challenge right now. We're just in the planning phase.
And I'm curious, just with an agile workflow, do you sense or have you seen any incompatibility between um, sometimes with certain kinds of technology deployments, they have to be done, well, especially with AI, in my experience, you have to have pretty consistent inputs and then have a pretty consistent understanding of what the outputs of those things need to be. There is a like a almost like a rigidity in that needs to be there, and you can have a lot of creativity within that rigid process, but you really need to understand like what's coming in, what is it that we are doing with that information, and what is the consistent output. Are there any challenges that you've seen with a more agile process to try to figure out where AI fits in that process, or are structurally there any problems between how agile works and what's necessary when working with AI?
I don't think it's going to be a conflict with Agile necessarily, but this kind of gets into like some of the things that I've been, doing a deep dive on more recently, which is sort of the AI application development, AI deployment. Because part of that, just an example, and this doesn't necessarily part of Agile, just software development. You've got a quality control process, right? How do you verify, hey, these are the requirements. This is what was built. Does it do what it says it would do? Well, AI doesn't work like regular software. It's not deterministic. You get different inputs. You can change the model and it'll behave differently. So how you do those, both the design and the development, and then the like you said, the quality check for that testing piece is different, and it's going to require different tools and different skills. But I don't think that's necessarily a change to the Agile part. It's more of the perspective of people that are building and then testing the systems. And then there's a deployment and maintenance where AI, depending on how you built your model or what you're doing, AI can drift. So you've got to monitor it. And you've also got to monitor, is it behaving the way you'd expect it once it's out in the wild? Once you're having users, whether they're internal or customers, you actually use the AI tool. But that's not really, I think, an Agile problem. That's more of that's a software development. It's a application development lifecycle challenge.
How do you do that kind of monitoring on a large scale about what the AI is outputting and whether or not it's hitting your own predetermined standards for, quality to avoid that drift?
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine across a large team and externally with users, there must be too much for a person to review.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I haven't gotten into this. The point that I'm at is looking at what platforms we want to probably choose for our company to build on.
Hmm.
Because once we start building, there's going to be a sunk cost, both in time and effort and training and learning how to use the tools. Azure has AI Foundry that has built-in quality check and benchmarking and monitoring. We're also looking, we've been using Databricks for a while, which is another AI machine learning platform. And these platforms have built-in tools where it'll monitor a lot of different aspects of the performance of the AI, both in how quickly it responds. It'll integrate user feedback, the thumbs up, thumbs down that you see. It will it'll let you tune different models and then check to see the performance difference between them. Even what they call serving endpoints, where, for example, you have an AI agent. A serving endpoint can have 2/3 of the customers or users get pointed to one version of the AI model and then another third to the other. So you can do A/B testing and then compare the results and then choose the one that works better, that's more accurate. And then something else I ran across that I haven't tested yet, but I'm excited to try is using AI to test AI. So the idea is you have, instead of a customer, is this right or wrong? You actually use a different AI model or a different LLM to say, does this output make sense? And so you can automate your testing by linking together multiple AIs and having AI evaluate AI.
I'm curious to get like just a concrete example. So if what does a customer interaction with your system look like? What is that back and forth? What kind of data is being generated there? And then how, it sounds like you are still working on how to set these things up in general, but it would be interesting to kind of hear a specific example and then talk a little bit about some of the challenges and opportunities that you see with AI around those interactions?
Well, and right now we're not planning on building anything customer facing. So the first step, we're really going to be looking at automating some of our internal process. So there's a lot of security monitoring and patching and vulnerability management, things that we do, just operational things for IT. And then also parts of our contracting process, our contract and, order management, vendor management. Those are things that we're in the planning stage, to build and test. So right now we really don't have any of these tools in place. That's why I'm doing the platform evaluations to really see what works best for us.
And so what are the important things you're looking for in the tools that you're looking at? What do they need to be able to do to meet your needs?
For the platforms, the biggest one is data access. Most of AI or for our organization, the real value is going to come out of, can you get to your data and use it? Just as an example, just as a personal assistant, we're using ChatGPT. We ran into a challenge where it wouldn't connect directly to our data because we don't have the enterprise version. So say you build an agent and you link to knowledge, for example, contract review. Here's our playbook for how you write contracts. Well, anytime you change it, you'd have to upload it to the ChatGPT agent that you built. Whereas if you have the enterprise version, you could point to, here's where it lives on the network folder. And then anytime you update the playbook, which includes things like, here's the name of our bank, here's the name of our contracts manager, here's our company address, here's our, tax ID number, just things like that. When you change those things, they automatically get updated in the agent. So the platforms I'm looking for, one, data access. The other thing is monitoring. We have to be able to, who's using it, what are they using it for, what data are they accessing? We also want to make sure we can link into data loss prevention systems. So is somebody uploading something they shouldn't? That's very important from a governance standpoint.
Sure.
And then, with ChatGPT and Copilot and some of those digital assistants, it's not to the point where you're building AI applications yet. But for that next step where, say, you've got multiple agents you've built in ChatGPT that you want to start linking together, you want to automate, the platform that we move those to, one, we'd want to be able to use different models. So if we wanted to change between OpenAI or Claude or Llama, we could just change them out and see what is more cost effective and what performs better. And then the monitoring, like I said at the end, is it working right? Is it doing what we expect it to do? So really, those are the big things that I'm looking for in the platforms. And right now, we're more at the building individual agents. So we're not building systems or applications. But I'm looking at, if we want to really launch into this, it's probably going to be 3 to 6 months before we have agents that we want to automate, and then chain together and accomplish more complex business tasks.
And do those business tasks, you mentioned a few of them, so it sounds like these things could apply to finance, to HR, could be to any of your actual data work. So any work the teams are where they're interacting with data. Does it apply to any of the program creation work that you're doing?
Yeah. In fact, one of the great use cases, both on the software and the instructional design, the training development, we haven't built them yet, but we're planning out. And actually, some people have started to build their own personal agents. We haven't built a system. But let's take requirements, right? Do you have using agents to make sure you've covered everything that needs to be covered in good requirements development? And that applies both for software and instructional design, right? There are certain minimum things you want to make sure are defined. Well, AI can scan through your requirements and find the gaps. Next step beyond that, if you've got good requirements, it's already been validated, well, go ahead and put it into your Agile process. Instead of people copy pasting stuff into, for example, we use Jira, you have it create a ticket for you. Now this is ready to develop. But beyond that, once you've got your requirements, you can also create your test cases. So you can have AI look and say, well, generate my test cases for me so I don't have to write these. And then your quality control people won't have to go bug the developers to, say, how do I test this? Um, and then beyond that, we already know the writing code, building images, building content. Those are things that AI from a generative standpoint can handle. But really, on both sides, I see from just the development life cycle, AI can help from the unstructured stuff, the how do I write a good requirement, all the way through to building the tools, building the product.
And so are you looking for, so you were talking about trying to find a technology that will help you kind of govern all of these different agents, how they're deployed, get reporting on them. Is it possible to have a single system that does go across all of those like all of those functions from finance
Yeah.
to program creation? Or do you imagine that you might have a couple of different ways that you're governing um, the deployment of AI technology depending on whether or not it's happening in program development or finance or HR or whatever? How does that look like from a kind of organizational standpoint?
Yeah. I think really it's first part of your question. I don't think it's going to be a one size fits all. Like there's
Mm,
no one application out there that
yeah.
you could say this does everything for me. Um, it's more of, what are the parts and pieces? So there may be, here's the part that manages helping you build the agents. Here's the part that helps you test them. Here's where your data lake, your data warehouse, that's its own technology. Data governance and the governance part of it. There are multiple platforms out there that do that. So I think really I'm thinking of it as, that you're going to have these pieces and then you assemble them together into here's our platform, and then, it's not one piece of technology, it's multiple, but they do work together and they provide, a larger business solution out of it. But yeah, I don't think there's one place to go to do it all. And you may not want to do that because then you'd probably get locked in.
And then they'll jack up the prices on you. When you're
Always,
locked in, that's when they
always.
increase their pricing. Is
Yeah.
my experience. I mean, this then sounds like there is no obvious roadmap for you to follow, right? Just from based on what you're saying, that you have a lot of creativity and leeway in terms of how you might imagine how all of these systems connect or not, how they are governed in terms of the rules of your organization, but also how individual humans are. If there's a leader of finance, they might have responsibility for a set of things. If there's a leader in learning operations, building programs, they might have responsibility over a different piece of the system. Those things all might roll up or might not roll up into a single view for senior executives. But that's what you're working out, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more of a, when I say platform, it's less of a, I'm going to install this on my computer or on a server.
Yeah.
And it's a,
Yeah.
it's a framework. It's a model to operate the business by. And I also I want to emphasize I'm really focused on the data and AI part of it. But the rest of my team that I work with, we've got human resources in there and we've got IT and we've got security and so we have representation. We've got the finance, side of things because, you know, it's AI, but really, business and digital transformation, AI is just a part of it. And a lot of it is just uh, creating an environment where the technology can get adopted and people feel comfortable and use it successfully. I don't know how to better put it. And AI is sort of the big thing right now, but you could say it's automation or, you go back to the old days, we're moving from paper to digital.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I asked a question to somebody recently about, what's the most important thing in the AI transformation? And they said, it's actually not about the technology. It's about the fundamentals of what you're trying to do. And, I think it sounds like you're saying a different version of that, which is that this is fundamentally, it's a business transformation project. and that AI is involved heavily in that transformation, but that it really needs to be driven by the essential needs of the different functions first. And the AI then needs to be serving those needs. I think sometimes I'm not going to speak for everybody, I can get so sucked into some new thing that AI can do that I feel like, oh, all right, well, I need to be changing something I'm doing to accommodate this new opportunity we have that the technology is giving us. But that's definitely wrong. I I always end up in a bad place when I do that. And it just sounds like you're saying a similar thing, that you're really focusing in on the business needs, and then you're working hard to see what the technology is capable of. But I'm curious, as you do this, as you roll this out, I mean, what you described in terms of how you're gonna roll this out across the organization and what the opportunities are, it sounds like this is an enormous project. There are a lot of things that need to be changed. This isn't a like, we're gonna put this in place and then it's gonna run and it's gonna be
Yeah, yeah.
fine. But how do you think you might measure the success of a new way of doing things once it's deployed? How do you measure how do you measure the success? How do you measure the return on all the investment that you're making in it?
Yeah, and that's really tough because you can, if you want to get down into the micromanage, you can say everything that everybody does. You want to say how long did it take before, how much did it cost, and how much are we saving now? You get down to that level of micromanagement and you kill your agility, right? Because now people are spending all of their time, trying to track the work that they're saving time on, and you're also discouraging people from doing it, right? Because it's like, well, I do this, but now I'm going to have to come up back with an ROI. So we threw that out. Um, I'm looking for, what can I learn just by watching passive watching, right? I mean, everything is digital. One of the reasons it's so important, all the AI tools that we're looking at buying off the shelf tools, we have the ability to see how they're being used. Is you can judge a lot just by who's using and how often and where they're using it for. And I'd rather do that than have to have people provide some ROI report, or dig into timesheets and see, did we save half an hour here or half an hour there? Uh, and then I think broad measures, uh, we've already kind of seen just so far in what we've adopted for AI, which is really just using it kind of like we've talked about as just a digital assistant, right? Building individual GPTs or agents. We've already seen a decrease in the number of requests for new employees. So in previous budget seasons, everybody was always asking for more. And either because they're anticipating they won't need it because they're hoping AI will fill it, or it's already doing some of that. We're actually doing the same amount of work or more, but we're not asking for more people yet. So some of those, like,
Huh.
I'd call them passive measures, just sort of these
Yeah.
other things that you may not be able to say absolutely AI did this.
Hmm.
But you can look at the overall organization and its performance, and you can say, it probably did, or there's a good chance. Um, but it's a great question, and it's not an easy problem to solve.
You just said a very big thing there
Which
about,
part that?
now that you're not well, that maybe you're not hiring where in past years you might.
Yeah.
I it's interesting. On the other hand, you're in a job that didn't exist 3 years ago, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that work was invented, and this is
Yeah.
something that I feel like you said, there is so impossible to tease out exactly what the ROI is and how to measure progress and how to know what exactly the trade-offs are, because I think in order to realize these gains, there's more work that needs to be done. Trying to measure, was it worth it? And how much did we save or make because of those changes we implemented? Yeah, I can understand the complexity and maybe possibly impossibility or unnecessary drag that you could put on your organization if you asked everybody to go in and constantly measure themselves and their work as they're doing it. I'm kind of curious just because my understanding when we talked before is that you're coming into this new role just kind of organically grew out of the need that your organization realized it had
Yeah.
and that you were able to step into it. You're obviously very enthusiastic about trying to solve these problems, which is an important thing to have. And you have the right technical background. You know the organization inside and out. And I would imagine as you've been doing this, like there's just, I think for all of us, there's no playbook for how to do these things exactly right. I mean, it's so new. But you have been on the job, you've been learning on the job. So I'm kind of curious, if somebody listening to this is in a position where they're responsible for re-architecting the way that their organization works using AI, what advice would you give them if they're just getting started in terms of how to do that job effectively?
First thing, and this is get hands on with, use it yourself. I think because if you don't have an idea of kind of what its capabilities are, you want to understand, and use it as deep as you can. Because again, you can start with just I'm asking ChatGPT or Gemini questions, but then you can build agents and you can start understanding what instructions and knowledge and prompts, and then dig a little bit deeper. The second thing is I would say start talking to people. Talk to people in your company. Get a feel for not everybody's going to have the same level of understanding. A lot of people are going to be skeptical. A lot of people are going to be fearful, not wanting to adopt. And then talk to people outside the company. I've been getting more and more involved with local AI groups here I'm in Austin. And it's a good tech hub. Maybe not as good as Silicon Valley, but it's growing. And hearing what other people are doing and where their successes and failures helps, one, give you good ideas. Never thought of it. Give it a try. New technology. And also some of the pitfalls. It kind of helps you level set. You go in maybe you assume AI can do everything. Hearing about other people's failures where it didn't work or where it's not ready, that's huge. So I'd say talk to people, talk to everybody. I think that's just a huge help.
And thinking about the future, I mean, it's such a hard question to ask. I'm just going to ask you your predictions, but I always feel weird asking this question because it's hard to know where we are right now. But I'm going to ask it anyway. We know that things are going to keep changing, but what do you think might change in the next, I don't know, year, 2, 3 years, with technology that could maybe be another large fundamental shift that we might have to navigate through?
I think, and I'll steal this. I forget what the paper that I read that mentioned this. Basically, the value of knowledge is going to go down to close to zero, right? Because AI can do that. That's what it does really well. It knows things. And if you know how to put the right question, it comes back with the right answer. It's all of those other skills that you have to learn, that, judgment, understanding what the business needs, what the problem is you're trying to solve. That's where the new value is. So I think I could see within the next year, and maybe we're already seeing it, a lot of that knowledge value for people's jobs is going to change. It's going to go down. So just knowing something isn't enough. And I don't think AI has to advance much further to get there. I think we're already pretty close.
Sometimes we take inspiration from surprising places and we have kind of things that we've learned or skills that we've picked up in the past that we use in our work that aren't explicitly about what we're doing, but they're useful. And I'm curious, you said that maybe physio or psychobiology doesn't have a lot of transferability into what we're doing. But I'm curious, are there, as those other things that are not knowledge become more valuable, are there things from your past skills that are maybe kind of untraditional to the workplace that you think are going to become more valuable as we head into that future you just described?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to the, maybe the psychology and biology, thinking of systems and how they sort of build on each other, right? You've got these components. AI does that, right? You've got these I solve one problem and then I pass it off to the next thing that solves the problem, pass it off to the next thing that solves the problem. And I think from what skill helps me, not just AI, but a lot of the different things that I've done, it's that problem solving mindset. How do you look at a problem and then decompose it into things that you can do to solve it step by step? And AI, I don't want to say it can't do that now. It doesn't quite do it. So, when you go from hey, our business has this thing that we want to do. We want to build a new course. Well, where do you start? AI may be able to give you the first instructions, but you still got to kind of put that, what's your need to the plan. So I think being able to break that down, having that skill, the challenge I see is, you can learn a little bit of that by reading, but a lot of it is you have to practice it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, where did you learn that skill? I mean, did you get that working with, mice in the lab at Wheaton? Like where did you first start learning those skills where you're like, you never thought they could be transferable to what you're doing now, but they feel like they might be?
Yeah, I think, doing research helped with a lot of that. And, even after Wheaton, my first job, I worked for, 3 or 5 years, doing biomedical research,
Mm-hmm.
for a company outside of Boston. And a lot of that is come up with an idea or take somebody else's idea. And then how do you test that? And then how do you verify it? And then how do you execute? I think walking through that over and over again, it's that hands-on approach, versus just sort of the theoretical, philosophical approach versus a hands-on. I think you have to get hands-on to build some of those skills.
This has been a great conversation. I just have one more question for you.
Yeah.
After we're done, I'm going to ask you for your own question offline. But after each conversation with somebody, I will ask them to give me a question for the next person. And so the last person I talked to, her name's Jen Briselli. Jen is a experience designer and a consultant. And it's a great question. Let me ask it. Very curious for your answer to this one. What kinds of rules are you breaking in the service of, she said learning, but I'm going to say in the service of making your company more successful?
Probably trying to think of, I don't know if it's really rule breaking, maybe norm breaking, given our size. I'll do and then ask for permission later. And I think that's a dangerous thing to tell everybody to do. You've got to have a certain amount of judgment, discernment. You don't want to wreck the company doing something, but if you wait for consensus and buy-in from everybody before you take a step, it's going to be too slow. So,
I love that. And I will say, I'm going to edit a thing where she's talking about this and you talk about this, because actually in that conversation, which was just yesterday, she specifically said that people should do this. She recommended exactly the thing that you said. I love that.
Well, I'll do a pitch, and this is one of the things. We love innovation as a company, but we're very risk averse, right? We move. Sometimes we over deliberate. I think that's where I'm looking at the governance piece of less telling people this is how you do things, and more of just don't go outside these guardrails, please, right? Like have at it, but stay in the lane, and that'll be the safety part, because I think that is important. Let people go, let them take risks, but some things you want to make sure don't go too far.
That's great. Well, I so appreciate you coming on to the show. It's really always a pleasure to talk with you, John.
This was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really fun. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and a huge thanks to our guest today. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and colleagues. I'm Jason Gorman. I'm the founder and CEO of Jackrabbit Learning Experience, where we help organizations of all kinds make learning better through a clear, repeatable process that is future ready. If any of this resonates with you, just keep tuning in, and please join the community we're building. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.